morning all, and you're listening to Bound for Glory on SYN, the only AFL show on SYN. Big show this week. We've got a few guests from the under-18s, Ollie Wines and Jake Stringer, both future very impressive prospects. Big show. We're discussing the match review panel. We got a few segments on women's round in the final 8. So first we'll introduce the panel. I'm Ethan Meldrum.
I'm Ben Kazupi.
I'm Matt Marsden.
And I'm Ashley Craven.
And I'm Damon Jackman.
Last night, Etihad Stadium, Geelong looked to just pretty much annihilate the Bombers. The Bombers, they don't end seasons well, and we thought this year it might change, but it's starting a bit of deja vu from seasons past.
It really doesn't help when you look at the injury list and the load that they had they used during the pre-season, and it's come back to bite them on the arse.
I mean, the Cats' ball movement, pressure, spread, and willingness to work for each other is something that we haven't seen this year. We weren't sure what third or fourth gear looked like, and they looked to pull out of it, and they looked pretty impressive with the kids helping out. It
really was a typical Geelong performance that we've become used to seeing over the last 4 years. They actually, as you said, they moved for each other. Their spread was magnificent. They just couldn't be beat. It was one of those games where you look at them and you think, if this team plays like this week after week, they're going to win another premiership.
And they really set the tone from the outset as well. Like the pressure that they put on Essendon didn't allow them to get any space and time to use the ball, which was really good.
Yeah. The thing for Essendon's, great start to the year was that intensity and pressure that they used. They got numbers to the footy, and Geelong towelled them in this, that aspect last night. St Kilda found Essendon out a couple of weeks ago. They put pressure on the ball carrier. They didn't let, half-back flankers. Obviously, Hibberd wasn't there, but they had Dempsey, Heppel, those sort of Hardingham rebounding players, and they didn't give them any time or space. And, that second kick out of defence was always either to a Geelong player, it was made a contest. It never hit, a target.
Well, you saw in the at least the first half of the first quarter, it really set the tone. Essendon, just could not get it past the halfway part of the ground. There was a lot of great pressure from Geelong. I mean, they've always had the experience all year, but they've looked a bit laconic at times and just really looked impressive. Played as a team last night. It really paid off.
And Hawkins was really damaging as well with the 5 goals. They couldn't really find a way to stop him.
Yeah, clunked a few marks. I think Cal Hooker didn't really have his best game ever last night. Let Hawkins get a few very easy runs to the footy.
Yeah, Mitch Duncan probably had his best game of his career last night. 31 touches, kicked a few goals. Yeah, it's another aspect Geelong that they've missed. Someone who can obviously outside run and inside. They really just towelled Essendon in the midfield. Watson and Stanton got no space, no time, and they were just stifled. Even Corey had 7 clearances, an area Geelong have struggled. Contested ball clearances have been smashed all year in the midfield, especially in games against the Swans and North Melbourne, but they look to get back on track, and that's the Geelong, again, as Matt said, we're used to seeing.
It's kind of like, sorry, Ethan. It was really interesting to see another aspect that Geelong has sort of brought into their game. Now that they have a good mix of talls and smalls in the forward line, like you had, obviously you had the 5 goals. Young Motlop kicked a few, I'm pretty sure. Young Murdoch came in for, I think it was his second game, or his first game.
He was really impressive, actually.
He was very impressive. He's got a bit of a head on him, but he was impressive.
Billy Smets was pretty good too.
Yeah, 3 goals.
And Josh Walker as well looks to be a real future forward target.
I don't know where they're getting these kids from, but can we have some, please?
The football factory.
Just share them around, maybe.
Geelong Falcons. A lot of talent there. But, Mitch Duncan, really, as he highlighted, really impressive game, especially in the absence of Jimmy Bartel, of course, suspended for his hit on Trent McKenzie, was it, against the Gold Coast, I think. And then Joel Selwood didn't really have his best game ever last night, so really impressive stuff from the midfield.
3 blokes that I thought were extraordinarily disappointing for the Bombers, and I think they need a whack. And, Davey, Jeddah and Monfries, these are 3 footballers who have played at senior level for a long time. If you're going to, get in a side that's going to move up the ladder, you need to start having an impact. If their rebounding players weren't having, any effect, they needed to push up the ground. They needed to start affecting contests. They're always going to get Geelong on the run and spread, but they have the players to, and they didn't. It was just poor form.
Well, they're the sort of pressure applying small, medium forwards that can really damage the ball user. Like, if they push up the ground, just put pressure on Geelong with their spread, it could have really proved to be a big difference last night. It didn't happen.
Another thing that Geelong did really well is that they seemed to win the stoppages and get scores from these stoppages. So they applied the pressure, and then when they had the ball, they used it well.
You're spot on. Geelong kicked 8 goals, 3 from stoppages. The Bombers kicked 3 goals, 1. And you just look, there was They were surrounded Essendon. I haven't seen anything like it because I'm so used to watching Essendon play and having not only Watson but Stanton, Myers and...
It's almost as if the tables were turned, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. Yeah. It was complete opposite. I wasn't expecting that result at all.
I guess you could say Essendon have been found out almost now that they've a few games this year where they haven't really had the space and the pressure to really applied to them, I guess. Just with their kicking ability, as you said, from players like Dempsey, Stanton on the wing, once you apply pressure to these sorts of players, they really get found out. I think it's going to prove a big point come the latter end of the season, potentially even finals.
Have Essendon reached the wall regarding injuries? Is this the point of no return?
Number 22 for Stuart Cramery, I think, last night.
And they're all soft tissue injuries.
All soft tissue injuries.
Obviously, there's something wrong. You got to have a look. When you have that huge amount of injuries, you got to look at it and say we're doing something wrong.
And they were praising the weapon throughout the season, and now it's proven. I think he's strengthened their lower bodywork, but I think he's kind of overdone it.
And because the thing is, they're saying short-term pain for long-term gain. Soft tissue injuries is something you don't want in players because it's something that can reoccur. You can't say, we can have hamstring injuries. You don't want, because they can happen again. And with hamstring injuries, you're out for 3 weeks, but it's the 2-3 weeks after that to get to full fitness. It puts a player out for 5-6 weeks, not at his best, and it's going to backfire at some point, and it has, and it could backfire next year and years to come.
And the weapon is well known for pushing players past their threshold to sort of make their body adapt. But the thing is, if you push somebody past their limits, they're going to break down. It's exactly what's happened. They've had 22 players break down.
Well, I think we better go to some SYN messages, but we'll be back after this.
SYN opens its doors to young people of all kinds. Hundreds of schools, youth and community groups come to SYN each year. Our tours, workshops and programs are great for building teamwork, confidence and literacy skills. To find out about our education programs, head to syn.org.au/education or email training@syn.org.au.
So my name's Josh. I run a dubstep and electro show on Monday nights. You should probably listen in Mondays 8 till 10 p.m. It's fun stuff. We have regular guests, new music all the time, and we're going to be talking to the latest, greatest in dubstep, electro, and now drum and bass. Tune in to SYN's Indie Electro Night from 8 to 10.
Not panodrama.
To be or not to be.
Panorama. Mondays to Fridays, 4 to 5 p.m. on SYN.
We're back on Bound for Glory now. I think, really, we've got to have a big look at probably the biggest story of the week, the match review panel. Friday night before last, Carlton versus North, I think the big story that came out of it was 2 incidents that got reviewed during the week. Chris Judd, his chicken wing tackle on Lee Adams, which subluxated his shoulder, so popped out and popped back in. And then Jack Ziebell's, I guess we have to call it a bump of sorts on Aaron Joseph that left him a bit concussed. Very interesting decisions. I mean, we have Chris Judd with his intent to yank someone's shoulder, and apparently the defence was from Alan Richardson, and I think Chris Judd said it as well, trying to stop the handball. It was clearly not going to happen. The ball was pinned under Lee Adams, and then Jack Ziebell going for the footy by the looks of it, and I think the match review panel agreed on that as well, or the tribunal did, and it was very interesting to see that the 4 weeks still remained. So what do you guys think? Just the match review panel, and then Sharrod Wellingham's bump as well from 2 weeks before.
Well,
it's interesting.
Match review panel in 2 words: illogical and inconsistent. There's no.
That's 3 words.
Really?
Illogical and inconsistent.
Oh well, there's 2 words there.
2 main words.
Joker of the house. Joker. Oh
you're
yeah.
a funny man, aren't you? Just as funny as the match review
Why
panel.
so serious?
I mean, Chris Judd, the media furor didn't help.
I don't think he helped himself either, though.
He didn't help himself either. He should have got 2 weeks just flat out. And I think arguably the defence infuriated me more than the actual action, because I was at the ground and I saw it and I thought, he's frustrated. Clearly they weren't having the best night, Carlton. Things weren't working. The umpires were sort of, well, they weren't against him, but they weren't getting the rub of the green. And you could see how a rush of blood to the head could do that, but it was just stupid. And I thought, okay, that's 2 weeks. It's not bright. But his defence was just abysmal. I mean, plenty of ex-players and even himself and people were saying he's the only chance of recovering his reputation, which I think shouldn't be as stained as some people are saying. I'll take away his Brownlows. Shut up, just shut up, all of you, shut up.
Oh,
but
wow.
he said he'd apologise and just plead guilty and just try and not fight it and try and look for a way to squirm out. But you can't. He came in and used the handball defence. The moment he walked in and used that was the moment he was going to get hung.
The biggest issue for me, really, is that, one, being a completely reckless act, it was deemed as reckless in Chris Judd's chicken wing tackle, it has the exact same punishment as a guy who's clearly trying to win the football. I mean, if you watch the footage over and over of the Jack Ziebell bump, he's obviously trying to win the football, both eyes on the football. He's looking completely... It was just an accident. It was an unintentional, unfortunate accident, and he's been charged 4 weeks for it. And I'm sure Sharad Wellingham is having a little giggle to himself for getting off with only 3 weeks while running back with the flight of the ball, not looking at the ball, looking at the player, and breaking a guy's jaw. And then Jack Ziebell misses 4 weeks for attacking the footy.
It's just completely confusing, isn't it? I mean, you have, as you said, one guy who is clearly not going for the footy and breaks someone's jaw, gets off with a lesser penalty than someone who's going for the footy and concusses someone who's right to play this week. It's just absolutely mind-boggling how it can happen.
Is it the system that's a problem, or is it the way that we're assessing it?
Both. The system that allows... I mean, the inconsistency of the system... I mean... In Judd's case, they said, please do not let priors have any influence on what your decision is. And if that was Stevie Baker's whole career, remember that Johnson slap?
Yeah.
He got 9 weeks for that,
He got 9 weeks for that, and I think priors, added to like 50% loading or something. And it's just ridiculous how some cases can have priors and others can't. Judd's not the only case that this has ever happened before. And then you got things like good, as with Wellingham, good behaviour records, when he says he's been playing for 5 years, but he was only been playing for 4 because he was technically on the rookie list. It's just inconsistent, and you can't use logic to defend an illogical system. I mean, we should be suspending players for unsportsmanlike actions, and if there's intent and malice, you just suspend them. I have no qualms with that. But when you got players accidentally knocking people in the head when the football... And even the match review and the tribunal both concede that Ziebell was going for the football. And they say, oh, well, hold on, what other options did he have? Can someone tell me what other options he had? Just let Joseph get the footy?
Well, he could have not gone airborne, but that would have allowed Joseph to get the footy and probably get hands off, which is just something I don't think Ziebell, who is hard at the footy...
And if you look at the footage as well, if he did apply the bump to Joseph, if he kept his feet and applied the bump to Joseph, the ball the ball would have went over the back, and I think McLean or someone else was there that would have swept it and kicked it forward.
I mean, you can't tell footballers that have been drilled into them since they were 10, 11 years old, you have to go, you have to attack the footy. Coaches at a younger level, and it's a fundamental of the game. You get to the ball first, the umpire should protect you, not penalise you. Maybe it was a free kick because he didn't even get him high. He got him in the shoulder, and that's what annoys
point.
me.
He doesn't even get him high.
Hilarious.
Strawn side texting in, burn the tribunal down and start again.
I'm all for it. I've got a can of kerosene right here.
Lynch mob, after the show. It's all made up.
That's if the lynch mob isn't done with Judd yet.
Oh.
It was
pitchforks.
But just quickly on the loading, I think Jack Ziebell from that 4-week suspension now has a 50% loading on his next suspension, which is incredible.
He's going to fall over himself and accidentally knock someone, and he'll be like, 3 weeks, and...
But just the main problem I have with it is you have just the vast difference in intent, where you have Sharad Wellingham clearly not going for the footy and Jack Ziebell going for the footy. And how someone can get more weeks for that is just so confusing. I don't see, as you said, there is absolutely no logic in that system whatsoever.
The other thing that confused me with the Judd incident, especially, like, people named it a dog act, and yeah, it was unsportsmanlike, but, earlier this year we had Josh Hunt standing on Eddie Betts' hands, and he got off. Like, is that not just as unsportsmanlike as what Judd did?
Again, that is another real inconsistency in the match review panel, which we've come to see over this season. It's just really frustrating.
It's a roulette. That's all it is. They just...
No, there's not even a roulette. They're using the old Wheel of Fortune studios out at Docklands and just spin the massive wheel. I mean, Hunt got fined for that. He shouldn't have been suspension. You don't step on someone's hand intentionally.
In that case, I think it was more to do with the profile of the players involved. Like Hunt isn't like a well-known or superstar like what Judd is, and they're trying to make an example out of him. I think,
again,
especially in the media,
that worked against Judd. But there's a two-tier system. If you're a Ziebell or a hard-in player or someone who's not a Rolls Royce of the competition, you're always going to end up getting more. Now, ask Stevie Baker that. He never got... If that was Stevie Baker, what he did he would have got 15 weeks. And not because of his prior thing, because that was a Hayden Ballantyne. It's two classes of players. You're either a star and something that can be lauded, or you're someone who is despised and you're a pest.
Yeah.
Oh, I was going to say they focused too much on the injury, but clearly that's not the case. I mean, with someone like Jack Trengove last year getting 3 weeks for a sling tackle, it's just really confusing. And just the difference in injury is just... I don't see how it works.
I mean, I don't even go for Melbourne, and I found that horrendously poor. It's piss poor that they focus on accidental and you go for intent and malice. It's not there for when someone gets injured. It's a contact sport. It's going to happen. So, and I want to see if Dane Swan does the same thing today, goes after the footy, and we'll just see how this all plays out. And it's going to flip and it's going to bite the AFL on the arse. It's going to come back and bite them at some point.
All right, but I think just before moving to some messages, after Matt Marsden's top 11 last week, I think I better have a crack at my own. Hopefully it's somewhat as funny. 11 things more intelligent than Chris Judd's chicken wing tackle. So at number 11, Mark Robinson, his grammar and punctuation on Twitter. Coming at number 11, more intelligent than Chris Judd's chicken wing. Andrew Dimitriou's mid-season holiday, coming at number 10. Number 9, Jack Watt's skills at acting in advertisements. His wink in the Energy Watch ad is absolutely fantastic. Number 8, anything Jason Ackermanis has ever said about anything ever. More intelligent than Chris Judd's tackle. Number 7, Hamish McLaughlin. And his addiction to Wikipedia is more intelligent.
And showing up at children's houses every Friday night to give them medals and kick footballs in their
That's right. Dustin Fletcher is not 65 for that kid who won the NAB Rising Star thing last night. Jeff Geeshan's defensive umpires on It's Your Call at number 6. More intelligent than Chris Judd's chicken wing tackle. Number 5, Brian Taylor, good player. His commentary on a very regular basis. More intelligent than Chris Judd's chicken wing. Number 4, Sharrod Williams' glasses. More intelligent than Chris Judd's chicken wing tackle. Number 3, we had Terry Wallace last week, I think, on a different note. Dean Bailey's player development is more intelligent than Chris Judd. Number 2, Channel 10's writers. Being Laura Bingle, The Shire, and now I Will Survive is just absolutely ludicrous. And number 1, topping off the list, Tom Swift's haircut at number 1. We better go to some messages. We'll be back after this.
60 minutes, 4 rounds, 2 contestants, 1 winner, and a stack of unnecessary sound bites. Brain Juice, Sin's only quiz show, Saturdays from 3 to 4 p.m. Get your juices flowing.
That was delicious.
This is Sin Radio.
Get Cereal! Haven't you heard? The Wildcats are taking over Get Cereal this week.
This is what you missed.
Everybody wake up!
In the Deep South, you can get deep fried Coke. Fried Coke is Coke-flavoured batter, deep fried, topped with Coke syrup, whipped cream, cinnamon, sugar, and a cherry.
I feel like that would summarise the entire American trip.
I now have diabetes. It was a wonderful trip.
I'm going to America right now.
Get Cereal.
Get Cereal.
Go Wildcats!
Back tomorrow morning from 6 a.m. on Sin.
We are back on Bound for Glory. Now we've got a couple of great interviews with Ollie Wines and Jake Stringer. Both good midfielders. Ollie Wines more a ball-winning midfielder, Jake Stringer a tall midfielder. Very good interviews. Check them out.
I'm Peter Williams from Bound for Glory FM in the city, and we're talking with Jake Stringer. Basically, I guess the main question everyone wants to sort of know is how's the leg, and how's the fitness going in that regard?
Yeah, fitness is going good. It's been a bit of a struggle over the middle course of the year, trying to get the fitness and make sure the body's holding up week by week. So just matter of a thing week by week, just trying to get everything right. Starting to get a solid fitness pace now, and leading into the draft, hopefully can pull in some good times at draft camp.
And do you sort of see a lot of improvement in that sense? Like, can you feel yourself getting a lot better as it sort of improves and fitness gets better?
Yeah. Well, the last sort of couple of weeks I've started to go through the midfield and actually starting to get my hands on the ball and be able to move around, whereas this pre-season I had surgery, so I had no pre-season and was just thrown in and started playing pretty much when I could start running. So,
did clubs sort of come and talk to you before, or just sort of after draft camp? Do you know? Have you sort of had anyone on your door or anything?
Nah, it's very well through the AIS and that.
Yeah,
you have a lot of meetings and you have a lot of conferences with clubs, and so most of them know what you like by the time you get to draft camp anyway.
And sort of how's it feel sort of playing with a group that I guess are from all over the place in a way? They're not sort of from the one town, like.
Yeah, it's pretty hard. I mean, for the first 5 or 6 weeks you're running around calling everyone mate because you don't know what the boys, you don't know any names, you don't know nothing about them. So this time of the year we normally start to play some pretty good footy. So
you obviously played for Vic Country recently. How'd you find that experience?
Yeah, playing for Vic Country was a good experience. I was going in probably a little bit underdone with how I'd been travelling and all that type of stuff. Probably played a little bit too much game time in the earlier weeks when I first come back and was struggling to pull up. So, but now we're starting to get on top of it all and body's going good.
And do you sort of see, you've sort of kicked 20 goals this year from 6 games in the TAC Cup. Do you sort of see yourself, like obviously in the midfield, pinch hitting forward, or do you sort of see yourself playing more forward, pinch hitting midfield?
More, pretty much I just want to be a permanent midfielder. Start of the year I was playing forward because I couldn't play anywhere else, I couldn't move. So I mean, I think I played three games and kicked 17 goals or something like that, and then started to play backline probably through the middle part. Now I'm starting to go to midfield where hopefully I belong.
And do you sort of see it as, I guess, a stepping stone? Do you think you could really make it a step into AFL?
Yeah, I think I could. I mean, a lot of work to be done between now and then. Obviously got to get a massive tank, but I'll just be, hopefully, if I'm lucky enough to get on an AFL list.
And do you sort of read any of the, I guess, predictions or anything like that about where you're hopeful to go in a way, or?
Nah, no idea. I mean, you have your mates tell you all that type of stuff, but I don't look into it. I'll be happy if I went pick 99 if I was the last pick, as long as I hopefully get my chance to play at an AFL level.
And have you contemplated like interstate teams potentially, especially with so many at the start of the draft?
Yeah, I've contemplated interstate. I mean, I've got family connections most places, so yeah, it wouldn't really worry me.
And is there a particular AFL player you model yourself on at the moment?
I'm trying to model my game around like a Goddard or a Matthew Pavlich, so even Dustin Martin, so
there's 3 different players completely, so a little bit of everything there.
Yeah, a little bit of everything. So
yeah, and do you obviously when you get there, how do you think you're going to sort of fit into a sort of team structure? Do you see any sort of teams that you would think you'd sort of fit in with, or where you need to?
Nah, not really. I mean, the club will tell me where I'm playing because at the minute I don't have a set position. I'm happy to play anywhere. So.
And who was your idol as a kid?
As a kid, probably Jed Adcock. He was a very close family friend of ours, and same with Troy Chaplin, so they were probably my 2 biggest idols growing up.
Yep, no worries. Well, thank you very much.
No
problem. I'm Peter Williams with the Bound for Glory, and this is with Oliver Wines. So, first of all, what's your sort of experience playing here, like at the Pioneers?
Yeah, I've been here for 3 years now, so yeah, it's definitely been a good experience playing at that next level up from country footy and senior footy that I played back at Echuca. So it's good to get the opportunity to play against the best kids in Victoria. Yeah.
And how does it feel sort of captaining the side? Because not many people get to do that. Obviously.
No, it's very special. Yeah, you look at the captains from past years, and it's something to hold highly and yeah, really cherish, and I'm trying to do the job to the best of my ability.
What sort of current AFL player do you model yourself on?
Maybe a Josh Kennedy, sort of. Good around the clearance work and can push forward. I think I'm pretty strong, so around the contests I can get the hard ball but also run outside and get the uncontested possessions.
Yeah, and you got to go to Europe recently with the squad. How did you find that sort of experience?
No, that was an awesome experience to experience a different culture and play footy overseas, which is something very special because not every 17-year-old kid gets to go over to Europe and play footy.
And you got named in the centre for the All-Australian team. Obviously, that's a big honour.
Yeah, I didn't really think of much of it before, but when I found out I got named, absolutely wrapped, because obviously to be picked in the best 22 kids out of the carnival, something very special in my position. So really wrapped with that.
And playing at Vic Country, did you sort of find yourself really amongst sort of people you could picture yourself growing up with? Like,
yeah, definitely. So through the programs, I've got to know a lot of the guys and made a lot of good friends. So I guess that's what footy's for. You make a lot of new friendships, and certainly I can see myself great mates with a lot of those guys for my whole life. Yeah.
And have you heard anything like regarding draft positions or anything like that from anyone?
No, I don't really look much into it. Got school at the moment, so that's a big priority. That's probably above football at this point. So I'm just trying to play the best footy I can, and I guess the result will take care of itself.
And how tough is it driving down from Echuca sort of training?
Yeah, it gets difficult because I go to school in Shepparton, so that adds another element to the travel. So I've got to try and prioritise my time and work out when I'm going to study and when I've got football, so I've sort of got to divide that time up. So it gets difficult, but I've got good parents who help me out, and we get through it.
And who's been your greatest influence, I guess, on your career?
Probably have to be my mum and dad. With the travel part, they got to keep me on the straight line and make sure that I don't go get my mind too much into footy and keep my mind on school as well. So probably them. They've been through the whole journey with me, side by side, through the good and the bad times. So definitely my mum and dad.
Have you contemplated an interstate move if you had to?
Oh, if I had to, yeah. Well, that's a part of the dream. So if I was to be drafted interstate, well, I'd go anywhere. So my goal is just to be listed on an AFL list. So whichever club that is, I'll go there and give it my best shot.
And obviously looking forward to draft camp at the end of the year?
Yeah, definitely. I've got to get a letter first, but if I get to draft camp, I'll give it everything I got and all the testing and that. Yeah.
No worries, thank you.
We are back on Bound for Glory. Two very impressive youngsters in Ollie Wines and Jake Stringer. Interesting to see who they compare themselves to as players. Wines, obviously that ball-winning midfielder, a bit Josh Kennedy-esque, but Jake Stringer, very interesting. Compared himself to, who was it, Pavlich, Martin and Goddard.
Well, they're no slouches, so it's some pretty good stars to aim at.
So we'll never win a flag.
Big names.
He's kidding, Jake. Don't listen to him.
We've got a few texts in as well. First one was, did Joe get his convertible? Gumbleton looked decent last night.
He will.
He will.
I think
It's coming. He's going to the dealership after the show.
Yeah. Matt. What colour, Matt? What colour? I was going to be purple. Okay. Purple. Good colour.
Any more?
Match review panel is a joke. Yep, that's a common one.
Straight to the point.
Who has been working on Tomahawk's goal kicking? Probably the FARC.
The FARC.
The FARC Academy. Can Carlton actually win tonight? Thornton leading goal kicker. It's a big call.
We'll get to that in the match previews, I think.
Thornton on Mark Austin's an exciting matchup.
Yeah, that's one to tune in for alone. Did Peter Williams giggle when the bloke said Shepparton? What was that? Okay.
You probably shouldn't have read that out.
And the interview brought to you by Stringer's Theory. Okay. Interesting.
Okay. But Rim shot. We'll be back after some messages.
Guy Stepanov is a Moldovan musician and member of the Sunstroke project, which shot to fame in 2010 after appearing at the 55th annual Eurovision Song Contest. He's known for his eccentric dancing style and absolute ownage of the alto saxophone. But who's he better known as? Here's a hint. For more pop culture trivia, tune into Brain Juice, Saturdays from 3 to 4 to hear two contestants battling it out in an epic encounter of pop culture wisdom, only on Sin Radio.
No one would have believed in the first years of the 21st century that human affairs were being watched
by Panorama. Human affairs by young people, for young people. 4 to 5 p.m. Monday to Friday on Sin.
Oh, Timmy, I'm home. It's been a bugger of a day again. Oh, really, Jules? Tell me about it. Let me cut your hair.
No, Tim, bless you. Cutting my hair is always your solution. If it's okay with you, I'm going to go into the lounge and listen to my favourite current affairs show, Panorama. 4 to 5 p.m. weekdays on SYN. Bring the cathedral, Tim.
We are back on Bound for Glory now. I think we've got Ash going to discuss the women's round this week.
Yeah, I am. So round 17's women's round, and it recognises the contribution of women in the footballing community, as well as developing this contribution over all levels of football. So that might be right from local football up to elite AFL. It's also to highlight that the AFL can become more diverse in regards to the part that women play on the game. So there's many events being held during the week to celebrate the round. There's luncheons, exhibitions of female football talent, as well as education development programs for females within the organisational side of football. So with the round, the AFL released some statistics about the contribution that women are making to the game. So in 2011, there was a 29% increase in women's football participation, with over 94,400 female football players from Auskick right up to women's leagues such as the VWFL. There's also 700 female football umpires and 1,500 accredited female coaches. 42% of the national television viewing audience is female, and 35% of the AFL and club members are female, which is a significant increase on last year. So it's really good to see that women are becoming more involved with footy, whether that be taking an active role or simply just supporting their favourite team. I know for me it's become less of a novelty for people, and there isn't really a shock factor when I reveal that I love AFL. And even just talking to people at uni, I noticed a lot of girls are interested in AFL and they're wanting to get into AFL-related jobs, which is fantastic. So I really like this initiative from the AFL, and they're doing some really great work, and I know that women's involvement in football can only grow. But with that, I thought today would be a good opportunity to reveal my top 3 misconceptions about women and football. So, number 1, women only go to the football to perv on the players. This is one I get a lot. The majority of women that go to the football go to watch the game. Despite what many people think, it's not to go and check out Jimmy Bartel or Mark Murphy or Buddy Franklin flexing their muscles and running around in short shorts. I know, but this is a bonus, I know. If anything, I hear more abuse coming from the mouths of women than things like "you're hot." So that's just a complete misconception. Second one, you must be a tomboy. Now, if I got $1 for every time that I was told something along the lines of this, I would be sipping cocktails on a private island by now. I've gotten things like, you should have been born a boy. And even just yesterday, I got, you are the son that your father never had. Quite frankly, I'm sick of it. And as I often say, I didn't realise I needed a Y chromosome to follow football. But my absolute favourite, women get offended easily by things that are meant to be a joke. Women take jokes just as well as men do. We don't get offended any easier. We get offended when something is offensive. So for example, the St Kilda comments this week, where players were allegedly heard saying that they were saving themselves for hot chicks and there should be a clause in their contract about fat girls. This is after they refused to take a photo with the fan. Now, comments like this are offensive, distasteful, and unnecessary. What right they thought they had to judge someone so cruelly on their appearance, whether they are a male or a female, is beyond me. I just hope that all players reach a high level of respect for women, otherwise all of the hard work that the AFL have done up to this point will just be undone.
Thanks for that, Ash. Now, just a question to you. Do you feel the AFL is doing enough to allow women to be involved in the elite AFL environment? So, for example, CEOs, presidents on the board, in the media, in commentary. Do you feel that the AFL is doing enough in that area?
Look, it's definitely improving. I know, like my dad even said, like when he started going to the football, and he's been a member for over 40 years, when he started going to the football, women weren't really as present as they are now. And I'm even seeing it more with the elite sort of stuff happening now. You can even just see it just with commentary, like you've got Sam Lane that's on before the game, and you've got, I can't even think right now.
Kelly Underwood.
Pardon?
Well, Ben just said Emma Quayle, but Kelly Underwood as well.
Kelly Underwood, yep, all that sort of stuff. So people are getting up into that level. The AFL, it's not really, the AFL are doing like the right thing by promoting women and having rounds like this and that sort of thing. It's not really the AFL's fault for what's happening. It's more just this stigma that's with women, that women don't know as much, or that, like with the Kelly Underwood thing, that they don't want to hear a woman talking. So I don't think it's really the AFL that's doing anything wrong. It's more just the stereotypes.
To be fair, we don't want to hear half the male commentators
That's
talking
true.
either. But the AFL, you know, I reckon this is a bit too late considering the standards that, you know, women cricketers have had for the W League and the A League, which is a, you know, a great league. We're having a national league for women coming in by 2020. I think that's way too late. It's good to see they're rectifying it, but it's so long overdue. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
I think that will improve, you know, especially amongst the idiot men. You know, they don't have a lot of emotional intelligence. If you can get them out there, you know, to watch like an Essendon or a Collingwood, but a woman's side, I think you will see that improve even more because you can't get through to them using logic and, you know, rational thought. So if we can get them into it like that, yeah. With the St Kilda players, you know, you just have to think to yourself, like, they don't know their role models, and surely I don't think footballers should be role models. I think most people wouldn't want their kids looking up to footballers. You know, more respected professions where, you know, it's not based on, you know, a face value thing. But, you know, you got, again, with zero emotional intelligence, this is the first year that I'm older than the kids that are getting drafted this year, and I don't expect someone younger than me to show the proper attitudes, you know, when they're that young and, you know, they've obviously got money and they can go out and, you know, treat women in that way.
Well, it's good to see, though, that it's becoming more prominent, I guess, when you look at goal umpires like Chelsea Roffey, coaches such as, there was a Port Adelaide assistant coach that was on Channel 7 last night, Port Melbourne, sorry. What was her name again? I can't exactly remember because I was half asleep watching that segment. It was Peter something. Except spelled differently. But it's good to see. It is becoming a lot more prominent, I guess.
Definitely.
I'd love to see the females get into field umpiring. That's sort of uncharted territory.
One in training, apparently, I've heard.
Oh,
so
okay.
Within the next few years, we should have a field.
Because they're going to have the idiots hanging over the fence now.
Yeah.
At least we can spot them now because they're going to be yelling stuff out.
That's right.
Exactly.
Yeah, there's nowhere to hide, morons.
But especially if you had a Port Adelaide game.
It was the tarp that did it.
People dressed up in tarps.
But I think we better move on. Pralar's got a segment now.
Yeah, so look, I'm going to discuss, I guess, the final structure. At the moment, we have a top 8. We've had that for quite a while, really. But we've had 2 new teams being introduced, and it'll probably stay just at an 18-team competition for at least the next 5 to 6 years. I guess with the introduction of the 2 new teams, the question here is, should we move to a top 9, a top 10, or keep it at a top 8? My sort of position on this is that I believe that 50% of the teams deserve to play finals and no more than that. So at most, I'd be looking at a top 9. It is logistically slightly difficult, though, with that. So I guess what I propose is having either a top 9 with 8 versus 9 playing off in week 1 and the rest of the teams having a week off and then reverting to the standard 4-week series. I think having that double chance in play is very important. I think something that the AFL has done really well with basically rewarding teams who have performed during their home and away season by giving them that double chance. And I think some other codes, for example, the A-League is getting rid of that this year, which I think is a very ridiculous concept. So the alternative option, though, is to propose a 10-team final series where you'd have 7 and 10 and 8 and 9 play off in the first week. I think it would help clubs like Richmond, for example, and other clubs, and particularly clubs who are sort of struggling. That was a joke, okay? I think Richmond will eventually move into the 8, hopefully. But the real question is, are we rewarding mediocrity? You know, we saw last year that the reality is probably about 6 teams who you could say deserve to play finals football and probably would have taken it to the preliminary finals. I think Essendon were knocked out by close to, it was effectively being smashed by Carlton. So are we creating a poorer spectacle by having the final series, which is not having the best teams actually out there?
Definitely.
Yeah, I guess it comes down to whether we want to reduce the number of teams or increase them. I think I talked a bit slightly about my ideal final makeup, but I think what I want is, I think the most important thing is having a fair, even fixture, because right now it's an absolute joke that some clubs get to play Greater Western Sydney, Gold Coast, or Melbourne, or other clubs twice, and it does affect the top 4 and top 8 makeup. So ideally I'd have 17 rounds where you'd alternate home and away every year, but the reality is that with the television contracts in place, you can't simply do that because the AFL have committed to a certain number of games. So you can possibly look at having additional finals to make up for that loss in income. So if the TV want more games, maybe look at having, potentially best of 3 grand finals. I don't know what you guys think about that. One in the MCG, one in the opposition's home base, and I guess another one at a neutral venue if it was required. That could potentially also alleviate the home ground advantage that Melbourne has. So, for example, this year, Sydney could finish on top, West Coast could finish number 2, and if Collingwood end up playing it off in the grand final, they'll have a big advantage over these 2 teams, which I think is potentially a bit unfair. So I guess just the question really is, what do you feel the ideal final structures would be for going on to the next year or the next 3 or 4 years?
I think entirely it rewards mediocrity if you increase it to 9 or 10, because as we've seen over the last few years, teams like Essendon who have finished 8th and get absolutely smacked by teams like Adelaide and Carlton in the first week
if you
of the
finish
finals.
outside the top 4, your chance of winning a premiership is close.
Well, you could see it this year with someone like Collingwood or Hawthorn finishing 5th. They got a good chance at making it. But I think it does reward mediocrity too much. I think it's got to be more exclusive. So, the league's going to keep growing. There's bound to be a team in Tasmania at some point, I would have thought. Probably a 3rd team in Perth as well with their new stadium coming up. So you'd see the league probably increasing over the next few years even. And I think to keep it at 8, it does make it more exclusive. It makes the teams that compete in the finals much more of a higher quality. I think, it just rewards mediocrity too much.
I think Prahlad makes a point, the length of the season. I don't think best of 3 grand finals works personally, but I think you're onto the point that there is a strain on players. I have always been against the pre-season competition. I think it's a waste of time. It's a chance for players to get injured. I just don't like it. I'd rather them have an extra couple of weeks of training than actually play games. To be fair, you can't give 9 and 10. Like, look at 9 and 10 now. I wouldn't say that Fremantle and based on last week, Richmond should play finals. But I see your point, because at some point we need to address the length of how long the season goes for, because it's going to start taking a toll. And my personal view is that we should just scrap the pre-season.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah, I agree with that as well. I guess the point with having a top 10 or a top 9 is you'll have a lot more teams playing for something towards the latter parts of the season, so there's a lot more interest in the game. So if you keep it to a top 8, you've effectively got, I guess, you probably have 2 or 3 teams just outside the 8 who'll keep trying to push for finals. But the last 5 or 6 teams have effectively got not much else to play for, and there's less interest in those games. So I guess if you have a slightly expanded series, these teams aren't going to actually win any finals, but it is good for their own personal development and I guess keeping interest levels in the AFL higher.
Well, they can play for draft picks, I guess.
Yeah, that's right. I think that's a proposal
Or not play, even.
I mean, I think the last 2 teams should play off in a one-off match for the number 1 draft pick. It will alleviate the whole tanking issue where you have a situation...
Well, winner or loser gets it.
The winner actually gets it. So I think the bottom 2 teams are close enough to actually have that happen. So this year would be probably Greater Western Sydney, Gold Coast. They're both probably on 1 and 2 wins each.
So they fight for the draft pick.
They fight for the draft pick, and that way you don't have a situation where I think Carlton played Essendon a few years ago where it was a draw and neither team really wanted to win that game. And in this case, if you finish bottom 2, you have a situation where it doesn't matter whether you finish in the bottom 2 or whether you finish last or not, and you end up playing off for that draft pick. And it could just create some interest for that number 1 draft pick as well.
I reckon that's a pretty good idea. Because we're going to get nothing games, and looking at GWS's outs, I'm highly cynical of 10 players being out in the 1 week. If you're telling me GWS aren't taking, you are naive as hell, because they are making every effort not to have a crack. The last couple of weeks, that is not what we saw at the start of the year. And you can say they get tired, no, because they've got 50 players to rotate through. Not at all. They are feed income tanking GWS.
I've got a text in now here from Straunside again. Would a standalone 8 versus 9 game be a large enough draw card?
It depends on the teams, really.
I think the AFL do love it.
If you got someone like Sydney versus, I don't know, North Melbourne at the SCG, for example, just as an example, I don't think that would draw a huge crowd as much as, say, like Collingwood or Hawthorn would if they finished 8th or 9th.
I personally think it would, because it'll be the only game played the entire weekend, so people would watch it and probably go to those games. So if it was sort of played as part of the entire final series, probably not. But if you're having a standalone game in the 1 week, you're probably more likely to see people be interested in that game.
Well, there's pros and cons, I guess. But I think we better move on to some sim matches.
Before we do that, actually, sorry, Heath, we've got another text from Straunside. He said, here, everything Ashley says is so right. So there you go, Ash. Got yourself a fan.
We can generally agree on that.
And we've got another one. Is Judd's career tarnished now?
I think so.
Definitely.
I think it was already.
It shouldn't be, but it is.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Yeah, right.
And is Dimmer Hardwick in trouble if the Tigers get smashed by North?
They won't get smashed by North, or we'll look at that a bit later, but they won't. They'll come out firing.
We'll definitely look at that in the next few minutes as we do the match previews after this.
Do you want drama? Do you want intrigue? Do you want conversations about the scariest part of a pony? Or if it's creepy to wink at people? Then you want the Prop Shows. Every week, Ben and Vicky will be proposing, well, just about anything. You can be sure you do not want to miss it. Listen to it live on SYN, Saturday mornings at 11, or at propshowsel.com.
Not Panorama. Panorama. Monday to Fridays, 4 p.m. on SYN.
SYN Radio 90.7.
The ultimate battle for honor, for glory, to see who knows how much wood a woodchuck could chuck. If a woodchuck could chuck wood, SYN's only quiz show brain juice. I may take your freedom Saturdays from 3 to 4, but I probably won't take your lives.
We are back on Bound for Glory now. Match previews this week. Got a few huge matches lined up and some not so much. But Collingwood Hawthorn, big game at the MCG this week. Huge. It's just a lot of meaning around the game. Sorry, I just couldn't think of the word for what I was trying to say. But yeah, there's a lot of meaning around this game at the moment because it just really is going to define the shape of the top four for the rest of the year. What do you guys think?
I think Hawthorn's outside midfielders like Burgoyne have to play a part or they're going to get absolutely blown away by Collingwood. People are saying, I've looked at this round and have said, they're going to have some close matches. I really don't think this is going to be a close game. I think Collingwood might comprehensively walk over Hawthorn if they don't bring their outside game. You can have your Mitchells, your Sewells, your Lewis, but the problem with Hawthorn is blokes like Whitecross, Burgoyne, even Clinton Young, they need to get their hands on the footy and use it well because Collingwood's outside, they lead to space very well. And if Hawthorn's mids don't deliver the ball well to the outside players or the outside players don't use it well, they're a very good chance of getting hit on the rebound as Collingwood are also just as good as the rebound with Heath Shaw and Harry O'Brien.
Well, you mentioned Sean Burgoyne named, I know they won't line up like this, but named on Dane Swan. That's going to be very interesting if that goes forward.
Who do they tag, Pendlebury or Swan?
I still say Pendles. I reckon he's more damaging.
It's more damaging, yeah.
As a clearance player, I reckon so. But Ryan Shellmaker's named at centre-half forward. I think that's a bit interesting because given Cloak and Dawes in the forward line, I think they need that tall defender. With Stephen Gillam, he's not exactly the biggest guy out, and Josh Gibson as well is not very tall for a key defender. So that could prove to be a threat for Collingwood. But I still reckon, given Hawthorn's outside ball game, I reckon they've been more impressive the last few weeks. So I reckon they'll get the win.
I still think Collingwood will get up. I think Goldsack is very important today. He's not exactly short. He's not tall, but he's tall enough to take a tall defender, and that can be, it can be used as a decoy, and that's something that I think will get Collingwood over the line along with their ball use.
Beams, Pendlebury and Swan were all in the top four for Collingwood last week, so I think if they all get up this week and play as well as they did last week, Collingwood should put it in the bag easily. And I also thought that Collingwood were really quick last week against Geelong. I don't know whether that was a flaw in Geelong's game plan or whether Collingwood was just quick. So if Collingwood do pick up the speed, I think that they will win as well.
Yeah, Alistair Clarkson has said they're going to hold absolutely nothing back and they're treating it effectively as a final, but I still think Collingwood will be too good in this case and probably win by about 4 goals.
Yeah, I think Hawthorn running into this match haven't really had much practice against the big teams. I mean, they smashed the Bulldogs last week, but the Pies, they've had a bit of practice against Geelong and it was a tough game, I suppose. Well, not really in terms of the margin, but I think the Pies should win this in the midfield.
Adelaide versus West Coast at Amy Stadium, another huge game. This again will define a lot of the top 4. It looks like it's going to be a close game on paper. I mean, Adelaide and West Coast both in really impressive form so far this year. Battle of the midfield, both boasting impressive young midfields with players like Dangerfield, Scott Selwood, Thompson, Sloan, Prittis, Kerr. Just really impressive younger names, I guess. It's going to be a really good clash.
Yeah, I think especially in close in the clearances, you've got Dangerfield and Thompson, 2 leading contested possessions for the league. alongside players like Swallow and Kerr. Pritis is going to be very important. That Kerr will get tagged. If Pritis plays well, West Coast will have a crack, but I just think the Crows will be too strong.
I'm going to go for West Coast just based on some of the things that I saw last week, and I think that they'll pick up their game. I think there's some really good matchups this week in Talia and Darling. We've also got Sam Jacobs on Cox and Nick Nat, so that should be a pretty good contest right there.
Yeah, I feel if John Cock plays well, then Adelaide will probably end up winning because he's quite critical to the rebound ability. If West Coast can, I guess, shut him down, then I'd probably go with them, but at this stage, Adelaide.
I'll just say Adelaide based purely on the fact that it's a home game.
I reckon Bernie Vince versus Andrew Gaff would be a huge matchup, but I'm going to tip Adelaide at home.
Yeah, the next game we've got up at Metricon for the Twilight game, the Q Clash, Gold Coast taking on the Brisbane Lions. I'm not sure this is one that will get a lot of attention.
Gold Coast on a winning streak, though.
But yeah, they still haven't won at home yet, and I don't think they will today either. It's the Lions for me.
Yeah, I think I'm going to have to tip the Lions as well, but I wouldn't be surprised if Gold Coast got up, given there'd be a lot of confidence coming out of last week's win against Richmond.
Yeah, I'm going with the Lions as well.
Lions easily.
Yeah, Lions. It'd be good to see if they can actually get their first consecutive win the Gold Coast, but yeah, Lions.
Bulldogs and Carlton tonight at Etihad. You guys think that maybe the AFL should have scheduled this different? Maybe put the Adelaide West Coast game at night because it's not too exciting. Carlton still in finals contention. This is something that everyone's overlooked. Hey, they're a win out of the 8, and if results go their way, they could be in.
All the other teams have to do like a Stephen Bradbury and fall over, but
it's happened before. It's happened before. Lake on Thornton, it's their only option. The big boys all out for Carlton. Levi Casbolt, very exciting prospect. We've got Matt Fisk in the back of the room, just waiting to see him at senior level. It's good to see what he can bring to this side, for future. Later on, maybe next year to see, maybe at the trade table if he comes good. Maybe they won't need Warnock or Hampson.
And we've got the other young guy as well, Tom Bell, is it?
Yeah. Tom Bell, yeah. The outside midfielder, if I'm correct. Yeah, I just think it's a toss of the coin game. I just think Carlton should get up.
Yeah, I think Carlton's experience, given their impressive run of the last few years, should see them get over the line. But Doggies on paper haven't been too bad with a contested ball, so I reckon if they can get on top in that facet, I reckon it could be a very close game.
Okay, we'll just quickly run through these next ones. At TO Stadium up in Darwin, 7:40 tonight. The D's take on Port. Yeah, I'm not going to be watching.
Sounds like a boring game.
Yeah, it's going to be a 0-0 draw. Both teams have no forwards.
You can borrow my Melbourne victory scarf. Yeah, I'm going to stick with Port.
Yeah, going Port as well.
Port as well.
Go for Melbourne.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Melbourne as well. Won the last two up there. Sydney versus St Kilda, another game in the top 8, both teams. St Kilda's form over the last few weeks has actually been fairly impressive. I think so. Both teams, again, with good midfields. Mumford-McAvoy is going to be a key matchup, I reckon, the ruck, considering the contested ball. But I think, given the midfield, players like Kieran Jack, Josh Kennedy from Sydney, I think they're just too dominant around there, so I reckon they should get the win.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Swans to use the SCG to their advantage and just strangle and kill St Kilda on the rebound.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Swans. I think they'll win quite comfortably, actually.
I'm going to go with Sydney, but if St Kilda want to have a chance at winning, they really need to play a really good first quarter because statistically Sydney are the best first quarter team in the competition.
Yep, Sydney.
Richmond versus North. Again, this looks to be a very interesting match.
Richmond need to come out in the first quarter or they're going to get blown away. I don't think that will happen because they will bring it to North Melbourne. You put pressure on North, they can fold like a house of cards. It's how North handle the pressure.
And don't forget the big mullet man. He's back in, Ash.
Don't even tell me on mullet. That's a segment.
Marrington Goldstein. That's going to be a very good matchup. Yeah, I just think North should just get over the line.
I think if Richmond can stifle North, as he pointed out, then they can get the win. But I think I'm going to have to go the safety tip with North.
I'm going to go for Richmond just because I think they've got a lot of pressure on them from last week's disappointing loss. So I'm going to go for Richmond.
Yeah, Richmond.
Yeah, I'm going to Richmond as well.
And the last game of the round, the Twilight game on the Sunday, Fremantle will take on GWS. Yeah, there's not a lot of reasons to watch this one either. Ross Lyon versus a bunch of 17-year-olds.
Matthew Pavlich set to kick about 18 goals this week. Fred Fanning's record in a bit of trouble against players like Phil Davis and Tim Moore. Could be a bit of a blowout. I think Freo at home just can't top them. GWS.
Dockers by about 10 goals.
I'm going to call it the percentage game because Freo has the lowest percentage of the top 12 on the ladder, so this is a chance to change that. So I'm going to go Freo.
Yeah, Freo easily.
Well, I think that's the end of the show. We've got to do some plugs. Big Footy News and Bound for Glory News, two very good news sites. Sergeant Supercoach on Twitter, and also we're all on Facebook and Twitter as well, Bound for Glory FM. Very good show next week, so stay tuned for that. So I guess we can all say goodbye.
Yeah, we'll see you next week.
See ya.
See you later. Bye.